So, JD, let's swing back and backpedal a little bit. What did you think about all the claims that were coming up about potential rigging of the postseason?
This has been an interesting one for me, and I think that we're probably going to have a couple different takes regarding this as well.
Right.
I've been looking into it, and, we're going to be throwing our tinfoil hat on today,
Absolutely.
because it seems a little bit conspiratorial. But when you really look into it, it's interesting. So there have been some reports as well as, things that have been going viral. If a lot of people don't know, one of which was a pretty popular viral clip of Jimmy Butler scoring a basket. And then, the ref looking a little upset. And I got it here for you. I'll play it right now.
Jason Tatum tonight. I mean, those final 3 minutes, just a handful of offensive possessions for him in that last quarter, forced him into 3 turnovers. What was the strategy collectively?
So, you can kind of see a little bit, he's visibly upset. We'll go try and watch that one more time. Like, he seems a little upset. One could argue that maybe he was just running back from the play, but, it went viral for a reason, and something like that is pretty interesting. Another thing that we saw was that Uber potentially leaked, something showing that maybe the Boston Celtics were supposed to win this series. And I got that here for you. We uploaded it on the channel, but for those who didn't see, got it right here pulled up. And it just shows, some Uber routes basically showing that, for game 2, the Denver Nuggets were supposed to be playing against the Boston Celtics. Right. It's something interesting, a lot of these things could potentially be discounted. With this one, I assume that Uber is a very good, reputable company. And in that fashion, they're probably going to be preparing a lot for any potential outcome. They probably have the same thing, but, this one maybe got leaked. And so, it's something to really look at. Now, I know that a lot of these things could potentially be debunked. Even one more that a lot of people were talking about was in game 6, when 0.02 seconds left, he was able to, kind of put it in. It was 0.2 rather. He was able, Derek White was able to put it in to, finish the game. And a lot of people were upset because it looked like Jimmy Butler, with 3 seconds left, got fouled at, 2.1. And then if you actually go back and watch the tape, he was fouled at around 2.7, 2.8 seconds. But the referees gave him 3 seconds, they gave Boston 3 seconds to put up a basket, and if you take away, maybe 0.2 seconds,
0.2 seconds
doesn't count.
That basket's over.
But here's what I want to really get at. I personally don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility, because have we seen this before? As NBA fans, everybody who's watching, we have said one time or another, okay, this seems rigged. These refs are playing terribly. We've all have thought that at one point.
Every fan has that. Mm-hmm.
And it does happen in other sports too. I agree. But it does not happen near as often. If you throw a strike, they're not going to be calling a ball in baseball. If you throw a touchdown, it's much different in the NBA. It's like, it looks like they favor superstars. It looks like they're doing things a certain way. And, for those of you at home that are watching this, I think something very interesting to consider, and maybe you don't know this guy. For those of you that don't know this guy, Tim Donaghy was an NBA ref about 20 or so years ago, and he was caught betting on the games. Now, he was found out in the 06-07 season, and it came out that he was betting on over 45 games of the season with the Mafia. And yep, if you go back and watch those games, and I find this very interesting. If you go back and watch those games, it's very hard to tell that he's rigging it, although it has come out that he has rigged those certain games. So we know the games that he was rigging, that he was betting on, but it's kind of hard to tell. He was obviously very good. And I think the biggest point to consider about Tim Donaghy 20 years back was that there are still referees in the league that were 20 years back that are still referees now. And they have, phone calls, they have, a list of his calls on file. He made 150 calls to the Mafia. He made 11 calls to other different refs during the season, and then he made 134 calls to Scott Foster. And who is Scott Foster? He's a guy who is in the league right now, and he is officiating the playoffs. He officiated both the Miami and Boston series. He officiated the Lakers series as well with Nuggets. And so is it going to be so blatant where you're like, okay, this is very obviously rigged, or is this guy going to be really good? Is it weird that Tim Donaghy called him 134 times and called the other refs only a few times? Could he be potentially involved? I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to be thinking stuff like this. And with the other things that are coming, to fruition, like potentially this Uber thing that was going on, maybe adding a few seconds, for them to get a shot off, it's not going to be something where it's just like
blatantly
so obvious. Yep.
Yeah, and it's going to be subtle. Everything is subtle, and that's where the speculation takes place. And I agree with you. And just for our fans who are once again listening, I want to reiterate, because I know how our comment sections can be sometimes, we're not coming out and saying the NBA is rigged and here's all the proof. We are speculating based off of the minor evidence that we have seen, and we are really on the same page in terms of believing there could be some merit to that. And
yeah,
I totally
want to
agree.
hear your take on this, because it's like, if they're rigging it, if they're doing bets, they're obviously going to be very good at it, and it's going to be hard to find.
Right, exactly. If you are trying to rig something as a referee, obviously you're not going to be like blatantly obvious or foolish enough to get yourself in trouble and potentially land some jail time. But something that I do find very fascinating is accountability in the NBA as a referee really is non-existent. Like, let's think about all the terrible calls that have gone on even this season. Well, it was actually Boston and LA where LeBron James got like hammered the last few seconds of a game they were playing, and completely just got hit by, I think, Jason Tatum. You can see it in the replay. And what happened with that? Well, first, LeBron threw like the most epic temper tantrum I've ever seen. It was incredible. In fact, I think there was a meme where they said the different stages of grief, and then they just used the different photos of LeBron, which is so funny. He was so upset, but I would be too. I get it. But what happened from that? The ref's official Twitter post was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we made a mistake." Like, there's no accountability whatsoever. Like, and I think that could ultimately lead to a lot of these things taking place. It obviously has in the past before. When you catch a referee and put him in jail who has ties to the Mafia, and you know that he's rigging games.
And he says referees are involved. He said other referees were involved.
Yeah. This guy was a stool pigeon. He's like, it's not just me. We blew the whistle on everybody. To believe that was the only instance of that ever happening in the NBA, I think would be foolish. I think that this stuff still goes on. I think it's extremely subtle and hush-hush. I can definitely see it happening. Really? I really can. Oh, yeah, I can. And I'm not saying that it's happening, but I would not be shocked. And if I was Adam Silver, I would be doing a lot of investigations. And I would be definitely tightening my leash on the accountability of my referees.
Well, Doc, I think something to consider as well is that I think this claim loses a little bit of credence just to the fact that Miami ended up winning the series and that we're speculating that Boston was potentially supposed to win the series. But even given that, like we have been mentioning before, they're not just going to like stop Jimmy Butler from scoring baskets or the rest of the team or Joe Mazzulla getting out coached. It's not like they can be so obvious about it. But I think that, they look at point differentials, they see, okay, we're going to bet that they're going to win by 10. And if this team is up by 10, they might throw in a few calls, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Full Court Press NBA podcast. For the full podcast, click the link below and subscribe for more hoops content.